Have you ever looked at the full moon and felt a strange primal chill? It's a feeling that has haunted humanity for centuries, tied to one of our most enduring and terrifying monsters, the werewolf. But where did this legend come from? Where did the story of a man transforming into a wolf begin? To find the answer, we must journey back, not to medieval Europe, but to the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece, to a king whose cruelty would birth a legend that refuses to die. This is the story of the Werewolf Lineage, a tale that stretches from a cursed king to the monsters that stalk our screens today. Our journey begins with a name that echoes through the annals of mythology: Lycaon, the king of Arcadia. Now, Lycaon wasn't your typical benevolent ruler. He was known for being impious, cruel, and having a rather twisted sense of humor. He decided it would be a brilliant idea to test the omniscience of Zeus, the king of the gods. And how did he do this? By hosting a grand banquet for Zeus, and an act of ultimate sacrilege, serving him a dish made from human flesh. Some versions of the myth say it was the flesh of his own son, Nyctimus. As you can imagine, Zeus was not amused. He was utterly enraged. This wasn't just a test. It was a profound insult, a violation of the sacred laws of hospitality, and a display of pure evil. Zeus's punishment was swift and poetic. He didn't just strike Lycaon down. No, he decided to make the punishment fit the crime. He cursed Lycaon, transforming him into the very beast whose savage nature he embodied. His skin grew coarse hair, his limbs twisted and elongated into a wolf's form. He was cast out, forever doomed to roam the forests, a creature caught between man and beast. And so the very first werewolf was born. Lycaon became a symbol of divine retribution, a cautionary tale about defying the gods. His story wasn't just about a monster. It was about the thin line between humanity and savagery. From these ancient Greek roots, the seed of the werewolf legend was planted, ready to spread and evolve. As the Roman Empire expanded, they carried this story with them. The Romans had their own version, the Versipellis, or skin changer. The famous Roman writer Petronius, in his work Satyricon, tells a chilling first-hand account. A soldier traveling at night with a companion watches in horror as his friend strips off his clothes, urinates in a circle around them, and transforms into a wolf. The clothes, bizarrely, turn to stone. The wolf then runs off to slaughter livestock before returning, changing back, and revealing a wound that matches an injury inflicted on the wolf. This story added new folkloric details to the myth: the connection to clothing, the ritualistic transformation, and the idea that the human and wolf forms shared injuries. As the Roman Empire crumbled and Europe entered the Middle Ages, the werewolf legend took a much darker turn. The context changed from mythological punishment to something far more sinister: demonic pacts and witchcraft. Christianity was sweeping across the continent, and anything pagan or supernatural was often reinterpreted through a theological lens. The werewolf was no longer just a cursed man. It was a soul who had sold themselves to the devil. Tales of lycanthropy, the supernatural transformation of a person into a wolf, became intertwined with the witch trials that plagued the era. People accused of being werewolves were often subjected to brutal trials and torture. One of the most infamous cases was that of Peter Stump in 16th century Germany, known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. After being tortured on the rack, Stump confessed to practicing black magic since he was 12. He claimed the devil had given him a magical belt that allowed him to transform into a wolf. He confessed to a horrifying spree of murder and cannibalism spanning 25 years. Whether he was truly a monster or just a victim of the mass hysteria and brutal interrogation methods of the time, his story cemented the werewolf's image as a satanic evil creature. His trial transcript was translated and distributed across Europe, spreading terror and solidifying the link between werewolves, witchcraft, and pure malevolence. During this period, the legend gained some of its most iconic traits. The full moon, while not always the trigger in early tales, became increasingly associated with the transformation, symbolizing a time when the boundaries between the natural and supernatural worlds were thin. And then there was silver. Why silver? Its association with the moon and its reputation for purity made it the perfect mythical weapon against a creature of the night. A belief that only a silver bullet could kill a werewolf became a staple of the folklore, a glimmer of hope against a seemingly invincible monster. These medieval tales were not just stories. They were expressions of real-world fears, fear of the wilderness encroaching on civilization, fear of outsiders, and fear of the evil that could lurk within your own neighbor. Then came the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. Belief in literal werewolves began to fade among the educated classes, dismissed as superstition. But the creature didn't disappear. Instead, it retreated into the realm of folklore and fiction. The Brothers Grimm in the 19th century collected folk tales that included stories of wolfmen, preserving them for a new generation. But it was the rise of Gothic literature that truly gave the werewolf its modern form. Just as Mary Shelley had explored the boundaries of science with Frankenstein, and Bram Stoker had defined the vampire with Dracula, a new kind of werewolf was about to emerge. The definitive moment for the modern werewolf came in 1941 with the Universal Studios film The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. This film codified the rules for a mass audience. It was here that the famous poem was born. Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfsbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. The film established the werewolf curse as a tragic affliction transmitted by a bite. The protagonist, Larry Talbot, was a good man who fought against his monstrous alter ego, filled with anguish and guilt. This was a monumental shift. The werewolf was no longer a willing servant of evil, but a tragic victim, a split personality. Lycaon's curse had been transformed into an internal struggle. This new archetype, the tragic monster, proved incredibly popular and has dominated werewolf depictions ever since. We see this duality explored in countless books, films, and TV shows. Think of Professor Lupin in the Harry Potter series, a kind and noble man terrified of the monster he becomes once a month, isolating himself to protect those he loves. Or the werewolves in Twilight, portrayed not as monsters, but as powerful, tribal protectors, their transformation a part of their ancient heritage. In series like Teen Wolf, lycanthropy becomes a metaphor for the uncontrollable changes of adolescents' physical transformations, heightened emotions, and finding your pack. Modern pop culture has twisted and reshaped the werewolf in fascinating ways. In video games like The Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, or The Witcher, becoming a werewolf can be a choice, granting the player immense power at a great cost. It's a power fantasy, tapping into that primal desire to unleash our inner beast. The werewolf has become a symbol for so many things: the struggle between our civilized selves and our base instincts, the fear of losing control, the feeling of being an outcast, and the incredible power of our own inner nature. So from a cruel Greek king punished by Zeus, the werewolf lineage has run through the terrified villages of medieval Europe and onto the silver screens of Hollywood. Lycaon's personal curse has become a universal myth. It's a story that has changed its shape as much as the creature itself, reflecting the fears and fascinations of every era it has touched. The werewolf remains one of our most potent monsters because it represents a terrifyingly simple idea, that the greatest monster isn't the one hiding in the woods, but the one hiding inside of us, waiting for the moon to rise. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the history of the werewolf. If you enjoyed this dive into mythology and folklore, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories behind our favorite monsters. Let me know in the comments which legendary creature you'd like me to explore next. See you in the next video.